So I would like to ask the three previous speakers to join me here on this panel, and also Gabriele Siegert, please, from the University of Zurich. So I briefly want to introduce Gabriele. She's a professor in media economics and management, but more importantly, she currently is the deputy president of the University of Zurich and also the vice president for education and student affairs. Welcome. Please join me. Now, we've already learned a lot about key success factors for women's career in chemistry research and more broadly in science from the other members of the panel. And this is why I would like to start by giving you the floor, Gabriele, to add any additional factors that you feel have not been talked about enough yet or that are particularly important based on your experience.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you very much for having me. And I make it short. I just want to repeat some things that were already said. We have two dimensions when it comes to success factors. The one is the individual scientist, and the other is the institutions. And when it comes to the individual scientists, it's about resilience, 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 networking, 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 and prepare yourself to be geographically mobile, at least to a certain extent. And when it comes to networking and being geographically mobile, we have a slightly different situation between female and male scientists, and this is due to the fact that academic careers mostly interfere with family planning at a certain age. That's fact. And the other perspective is the institutions. Institutions, universities, all universities have to look at their procedures, have to look at their processes. They have to make sure that they have fair processes. They have to make sure that they are aware of the implicit biases. We all have implicit biases. We have to be aware of them. We have to make the whole institution sensible about this implicit biases. We have to do workshops and more things to really get to fair processes. This is, in my opinion, very important. Then, what Alejandra already mentioned, data. We have to have data because we don't want to talk about, is it so? No, I don't think it isn't so. We have to have data about the situation. We have to have data about leaky pipeline, and then we can talk about what to do against that. But without data, we are lost. And the third point is we have to, as an institution, we have to improve the compatibility between family planning and scientific career. That's for sure. For example, we have to make sure that going abroad is also possible if you have children. Support families, support especially female scientists in taking their children wherever they go. We have to have a broader perspective on mobility, to say, is it necessary that someone is going for 6 months or a whole year to the United States, or maybe not, somewhere else? Or is it more about working together with other universities, other scientists? It's more about the networking, the international networking, than doing the physical transformation somewhere else. And we have to change the perspective a little bit so that family planning and academic career is better aligning with each other. So far from my side.
Thanks a lot, Gabriele, for these, I think, important additions. We haven't talked about family at all before, I think. Now, what I found, and we also heard today, right, is that the gender balance at the higher academic level is getting better, has recently become much better. And there is also interesting evidence from recent studies, including one that actually looked at ETH Zurich, that there is little or no empirical evidence of widespread exclusionary or discriminatory practices against women. So this is good. Yet there still seems to be some kind of a gap, and there is also reporting that certain faculty, particularly but not only women, still feel like they're not quite fitting in, and that can lead to some of the dropouts that we've seen. So do you think we need additional measures to further reduce retention and dropouts? And if so, what should those be? And that would be a question to anybody who wants to take it. Yeah, sure.
Maybe I can give an answer to it, at least from my perspective of what we know about it. The most critical phase in the retention phase are the first couple of years that people started with their academic career. At least that's what the data that we have, so we have some data, seems to suggest. If someone doesn't really get started with the academic career, then the probability that females leave academia is much higher than what we see with the males. After that, it seems to be a bit more stable. Still, what we do see, in particular in my country, there is an enormous demand for female scientists at the higher level. So there's enormous competition between the universities. So you see quite often that females are being approached by fellow universities to make a transition to the other university. That I guess gives some dynamics, which may not actually be a bad thing for science. That's something else. But the most critical phase appears to be the first couple of years of the start of the career. That's where I think an intervention is necessary. But again, that's the data that I have.
Thank you.
I would like to add, I'm very much a fan of the leaky pipeline studies. With the leaky pipeline, you can see whether there is a bias in the whole process, starting from the bachelor to the professorship. And we have disciplines where there is no leaky pipeline, for example, informatics. Because only a few female students start the bachelor with informatics, and a few stay. They only have a few professors. Their problem is not the leaky pipeline, their problem is attracting more female students. But then we have other disciplines, for example, veterinary medicine, where we have over 90% female students, but only 15% female professors. And there we have to look at the expectation management. What is the expectation of the students to study veterinary medicine? I think it's different. It's not a scientific career. It's about helping animals. My hypothesis, you know. And we have to look at the processes in between. Be it PhD, be it a promotion, be it being appointed as professor, etc. Are there biases in this process? You know, so the leaky pipeline studies gives you a good example and insight into where to look at.
Thank you. And I entirely agree about the leaky pipeline, in particular chemistry being one of the worst disciplines in terms of retention compared to physics. You know, you mentioned other informatics, but physics is the same. There is a very small proportion of women, but they all stay compared to chemistry. And I just wanted to capture a little bit about what you said, whether there is that feeling that women don't fit in within the environment. And I think there is a little bit about that sense of belonging. We did a study about the sense of belonging, was a social type of study. And we know that underrepresented groups in general, and women are underrepresented in chemistry, don't feel that they fit always within the environment, and they feel that sometimes they are there but in a borrowed position, and they can't really be themselves or accept it personally and professionally as they are. So there is a little bit about that. Some people will disagree with that, but the sense of belonging is being heard, being yourself at all times, and maybe this is. I also wanted to talk about a little bit about this bullying and harassment, if I may, because I mentioned today about bullying and harassment. And I think bullying and harassment exists in society in general, but the incidence within the chemistry community or within the scientific community or the academic community is significant. And perhaps the infrastructure to report bullying or harassment doesn't exist as much as it is in industry or in other environments. And I just wanted to drop that in because I think I was going to mention today and I just skipped that.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. Anything you would like to add? No, okay. So, Ale, you actually already kind of talked a little bit about my next question, and I just briefly want to mention that, you know, many of you might have read this book, right? Lessons in Chemistry, Eine Frage der Chemie by Bonnie Garmus, quite an interesting book. It's fiction, but it tells a story of a brilliant woman chemist in the 1960s who had to suffer through severe sexual harassment and sexism, and then finally quit science and became a cooking show host on TV. And I just wanted to check again, and I think you already talked about it, Ale, thanks a lot. What data do we have about whether this is still an issue and to what extent, and what measures would you consider essential for fighting it? And reporting, possibilities to report, I think, is one aspect you already mentioned. I don't know whether there are other aspects or other comments from the panelists on this.
Well, I can give you some data from the University of Zurich. We have data about sexual harassment, and in 2024 we have 40 cases, and 20 cases, let's see, I wrote that down, 20 cases involved students, and only 12 cases are really serious cases where you have to have an investigation. I mean, every case is too much, we know that, but I don't think it's not only 1%. Even if we think there are unreported cases, this is not the big problem of our university, I would say.
I agree with that, because we have an employee survey every 3 years, and one of the questions is about sexual harassment, but also other forms of harassments. It's interesting to see, and in our case, PhD students count as employees as well, so they're part of the whole community. There's not a significant difference between the academic side, if you like, and the support services. It's about the same, essentially. So it's not the specific, I would say, for the academic situation. Also, other forms of harassments are kind of like equally distributed between the support staff that we have as well as the academic side. What is far more prevalent is exclusion of individuals and bullying of individuals, which is, from the number point of view, a very serious issue that we have to address. I'm not saying that the 1% sexual harassment is not serious, because every case is one too many. But from the numbers point of view, the other forms of harassments are far more prevalent, I would say. And it's almost equal between support and academia, because for a long time, I think, I've been in a couple of committees about this, it was thought that the specifics that we have in academia, the specific hierarchical structure that we have, where people have interdependency between them, would promote these types of harassments. But if you then look at the support services that we have, you basically see the same behavior. So I guess at the end of the day, we're looking at human behavior rather than something that's very specific for academia.
Okay, thanks a lot. All right, then I would move on to my last question. So obviously we're not educating our students just for academic careers, but more often than not, they actually go into private industry. And my question would be, and you already showed some numbers, Elodie, right? Yeah, what do we know about women chemists in private industry? And can we do anything more at the university level when we're educating these women to prepare them for those careers? And here I would like to give you the floor, Elodie.
So, first of all, concerning But if we look at programs that are like a lot of them to a lot of diversity. So they do a lot to make sure that we have more women, and I think there is a good tendency. But what can we do to? I think it's more about what is really lacking. How they can do it. Mention the case of someone told us it is important to tell them that even if you have sometimes out of the life, for example, you learn have different tasks, but lose your time doing something to take advantage of it. And I can tell you an example from one of my friends doing a PhD, and she said she was amazing.
Thanks a lot, Maud, also for mentioning this specific problem of pregnant women chemists in the lab, right? And highlighting some positive solutions, so to say, for that. Ali, would you like to add something?
Yes, I wanted. I really like the topic about the role models that you just mentioned. I think it's something extremely important that the role model has to be relatable. Something that I was trying to say was what all we can do is be proud of our own achievements. Role model is someone who is proud of their achievements and is helping others and is an ally to others. I think it's the other point that I just wanted to make is when we talk about women and families and the flexibility that we need here, and whether you need to travel or not, or what are the barriers when you start with family with small children. But it's not only affecting. I think this is one of the issues that we have. Inclusion and diversity really it's not only for 100% groups, really benefits everyone. Will benefit men when we have more flexibility, more approachable. Of course, we will be more benefit.
Thanks a lot. Anything to add? Okay. So we would have a little bit of time if there is a question or two from the floor. Yes, Janet, do you want to speak up or you want the microphone?
I think I can just speak up. So thanks very much to everybody who presented. I found it quite interesting. But at the same time, we seem to have this model that women should fit into the academic system as it was created and designed 100% for men. And I think we really have to question that a bit more. Buddy Walden, one of the economics in 2023, talked about community jobs, and she talked about all this stuff only changing when men become more involved in their family life, and the employer simply does
thanks a lot for raising that point, Janet. Yes, Gabriele?
This is a very good point, and I missed that one. Of course, the institution have to be aware that they are more family-friendly, for example, with times for meetings not too late in the evening, or offering childcare during necessary networking events. For example, we have an onboarding day for newly appointed professors with an evening apéro, as it is called in Switzerland. And of course, there is childcare in the evening, so that everyone can bring the children, and the children can come and go around, and everything's fine. But this is very, very important that we offer those kind of services. They're also very appreciated by male scientists, by the way. This is very important. This is also a part for the institution.
I cannot agree more. Sorry.
You have to. Frank, would you like to add something from the institutional point of view?
Yeah, so why not shape that future together? And that's also, I think, in my presentation, I suggested that if you exceed this 30% threshold, you're part of the game, which means that you can take that responsibility as well. And I'm sure that the institution is quite willing to listen to you. But it's not something that can be thought of, say, in the ivory tower of a board of the university. It's something that has to be developed by the community itself. So I invite everyone to think about what we should do to improve the situation. Now, there's one measure, to give you an example, that my university has taken, not me, but the current board. They have abandoned the tenure track model. They now give a permanent position after 3 months. It's a completely different ballgame. Whether it's good or not, something else, but it's a change. And it could well be that this change supports young people much more than what we had in the past because of the temporary positions, a sequence of temporary positions that we have. We have to wait and see what the end result of it is going to be. But this is perhaps an example of what you could do at the institutional level. And there are many other examples, I think. But it's important that you shape it together.
Okay. Yes, there is another question.
Are there data? Because it's my feeling that I could have been much more supportive on networking with other women. And this is one of the areas of fighting against each other. Regarding role models, we are chemists are editing series of eminent chemists, and it's very difficult to write their autobiography in a way that men are doing. So I just would like to point out that we have role models. Brave women who dare to write like men, different way than men, and perhaps you are.
Thank you. Ale?
Yes, I just want to say I entirely agree about women. We haven't been as effective as we could be. And we have some data about this, some data and evidence. The clear data is through publishing, for instance, and nominations to prizes and awards. So men tend to nominate men, and that we have core data on that. And occasionally women, but mainly men, because the pool is bigger as well. But women do not nominate women. And I think that's something about a sponsorship, which I was referring to, and it really is thinking about differently. But also these effective networks don't really exist for women, because for many different reasons, women perhaps do not go to meetings or as much as do men, and they don't have that sort of friendship and relationship. I can give you a personal example. When I moved from Argentina to the United Kingdom, I was in the University of Cambridge. Every Friday, I was a single mother with 2 small children. Every Friday, after the research work that you have to do, we were going to the pub. I couldn't go to the pub, ever. So my network was very small. And it was something that actually always repeat, because it really hurted me at the time. But I think it's important, the sponsorship and the activities that we should do. I also wanted to mention that the issue about women, of course, exacerbates if you have a family and you have children, care and responsibility for those, or parents' responsibility, or family responsibilities, of care and responsibilities. But the issues about gender are that bigger than the family themselves. It's about women, and women may or may not have children, and the issues still exist. So I just wanted to mention that because I think it's important to capitalize on that.
Gabriele, you wanted to add something?
Yes, I would like to add for the networking side. It's not only about networking. I would say make yourself visible to the leaders. The director of your department, the dean of your faculty, the member of the university board, make them know you. For example, Greta is known. If someone is talking about Patske or about Greta, everyone knows who she is, everyone knows about her research, be it only general. I'm not a chemist, so I don't understand it, much about that, but I know what she's doing, and a lot of people know what she's doing. That is important. That is very, very important. If you have not enough time for doing the broad networking, do the networking with the important people.
Good. All right, so I would say in the interest of time, I would close the panel discussion here and thank all the panelists again for their input.